You know, we hear that expression a lot. Oh, I feel like I've gotten hit by a truck. Hi everyone, my name is Marissa Zeppieri, and I actually have a story I want to share with you about resiliency and just the unknown, what we can't see because we're in a time or a season of our life when things are really difficult. You know, growing up, I remember my mom telling me, "You are the most perfect baby. I thought that there was nothing wrong with you. I thought you were completely healthy." Through the years, I just got more and more sick. Even though I knew that I was different, like from my friends, and you know that I required different things. Most 9 and 10-year-olds didn't have like a bag of medicine that they were taking to school. I was resilient, and I just kept pushing through. So I'm in college and I'm going to school to be a nurse, and I'm so excited because most of my life had been spent in the hospital and around doctors and nurses, and I think I'm going to be able to help people the way that they have helped me. And then in college, all of a sudden my life changes. One evening in Fort Lauderdale, I was crossing the street and I got hit by a drunk driver in a pickup truck that was traveling at around 50 miles an hour. It was literally a 3 or 4 second event, and it completely changed my life forever. So I think back to the time when I was in the hospital recovering from my injuries of being hit. And I talk about this in my new memoir, Chronically Fabulous. And I just remember being so angry and upset that all of the things I had worked so hard for were taken away literally in a second. And I didn't see any way out. I was completely dependent. What I do remember is being in a lot of pain, but not just physical pain, also emotional pain. And once the physical started to recover, then I had to do the work of recovering the emotional and also my spiritual part. Once I was released from the hospital, I went to a rehab, and I basically had to learn how to walk again because for a long time I wasn't able to put pressure on the organ of my liver, which that had the most injuries when I was hit. I spent about another year in full recovery. I couldn't go back to nursing school, and it was during this time that I started to get really sick. So all these weird symptoms that I had growing up, all of a sudden they started to come out full force. Fevers, rashes. I couldn't go in the sun for more than 2 or 3 minutes. I would get violently ill. The next thing I know, I wind up having some small strokes. Well, then I get a rash on the trunk of my body and also on my face. And they call it infectious disease and rheumatology. And within 3 weeks, I get this diagnosis of systemic lupus, a word or a phrase I had never heard of before. Now, 3 weeks, you might think, wow, that's really fast. But the reality was, I had been sick since I was a child. I had been waiting almost 20 years for an answer of why did I feel this way. So being hit was my trigger. A lot of times with autoimmune disease and chronic illnesses, we can look back and see very clear triggers of what brought out more symptoms. So here I am now, faced in my 20s when my friends are graduating college. They're getting jobs in their field, they're meeting the loves of their life, they're getting married, some of them are starting to have children, and here I am, stuck at home. Thank God I had an amazing mom and an incredible grandmother who basically my entire book is about, who I went back and lived with them, and they took care of me. That was so hard for me. I'm an incredibly independent person. And it was in these times, it was in this season of my life, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was an extremely dark season. There were nights that I went to sleep and I had this newfound faith, and I knew very clearly that for some reason I was spared. There was something that I had to do here. At least that's how I felt. Even the trauma surgeon said, "You have someone looking out for you up there because there is no way you should have even gotten to the hospital alive with your injuries." So here I am, in one sense, I'm so grateful and I'm so thankful that I made it through, which was probably one of the most difficult things I was ever going to face in my life. And at the same time, there were nights that I was in so much pain mentally and physically that I would pray for God to please just not let me wake up in the morning. This is too hard. So I have always been super expressive and sort of in your face since I was a child. And I sort of approached God in the same way. When I spent time in the hospital, I was alone many nights on my back. I wasn't allowed to sit up. And you have a lot of time to think. And I really had a lot of time to think about, who am I if everything gets taken away? Because in reality, that's what happened. Everything was taken away from me. I wasn't going to be going back to school anytime to be a nurse. That was gone. I had a mountain of medical bills. I felt like I was starting over. But who are you if you have nothing? You have to dig deep and really figure out, what are your gifts? What are your talents? What's your purpose? You're so much more than what you go to school for, what you look like on the outside, how much money you make. I had like a year on my hands where I was basically alone, either in a hospital bed or in a rehab. And I had a lot of time to think, and I had a lot of time to pray. And so I just sort of approached God with hey God, I'm still here, so what am I supposed to do? And for me, God always speaks to me in my dreams. It's like a download in my dreams, and it is so strong and it's so intense, and it's hard for me to describe it, but that is how he has spoken to me with every single thing. Whether it's my job it was my career as a journalist, it was my purpose to write a memoir, and it was Lupus Chick. Lupus Chick came to me in a dream. This community of people, of not just lupus, but autoimmune disease and chronic illness, people that understood what it was like to live with a specific set of challenges every single day. How do you do life? Just regular life. Life in itself can be so difficult. So how do you do it when from morning to night you're dealing with physical challenges, extra mental health challenges? Because let's face it, living with a chronic illness is stressful. I don't want my identity to be, oh, she's that sick girl. I dealt with that growing up. That's what I lived with. That's how people knew me. That was it. I wasn't going to accept that identity anymore. I had so much more. There was so much more to Marissa. And I just wanted God to show that to me. But it didn't happen overnight. It took years, and it took a lot of work. I had to completely retrain the way that I thought. And I had to really sit back and reflect and meditate and pray on, what is the purpose God gave me? Because just like he gave me gifts and talents, he gave you gifts and talents. There is something very specific that you are gifted and talented in that you are supposed to share with the world. And by the world, I don't necessarily mean you need to go and have 5 million followers on Instagram or some social media account. Your world may be smaller. It might be a group of 5 women. It might be a group of 20 men. It might be your family and your children. But there is a community for you to share your gifts and talents. And for me, that was Lupus Chick. So here I am, I start to build Lupus Chick. And in 12 years, it goes from this kind of hideous little blog that I tell people, and it has grown now into a nonprofit that reaches almost 500,000 people a month. Life had a different path for me, and I help people in a different way now. I can use my story and the experiences that I've been through to help someone who they are now where I was 20 years ago when I was first getting diagnosed. There is someone out there who's about to take that first chemo pill. There's someone out there that's about to get that first IV. And they are so scared and they have no idea what's ahead. But you know what? I can share the good, the bad, how I got through it, where I am now, what God was able to do with me through that whole season. I wasn't able to do that 20 years ago. God had to work so much in me, and I had to go through so much stuff. I think on social media, we are presented with the now, right? And it's like, wow, well, look at her or look at him. But what happened in that space before they got to where they are right now, what you're seeing on social media? Most people look at me, you would never think, she got run over by a drunk driver at 50 miles an hour. She's had 5 mini strokes. I have a brain aneurysm right now as I'm speaking to you. I can't even tell you how many days I struggle still, and I'm still in bed. We don't see all of that in that flash of that social media. But if you have a conversation with me, and like I try to do on Lupus Chick, I would love to share all of it with you. And the reason that I want to share it is because over time, you start to build resilience. I think when we're hit with something really hard, we have a couple of options. We can sort of get this sick identity role where we don't ever progress from that moment on. We kind of sit in it and we stew. And I'm not going to lie and say that I didn't have that time frame, because I did. I didn't see, obviously, I can't see the future. But sitting in it, you almost feel like it's never going to stop. You don't know what's 3 months ahead or what's 6 months ahead or 6 years ahead, and just how things can be incredible. If you would have told me 13 years ago, when I was in a wheelchair for that second season of my life, that I would be jumping around and working out and being able to do videos and vacationing and going away with my friends on road trips, which is like my favorite thing to do, I probably would have laughed at you. I never thought like that was going to be possible for me again. Because that's what happens. We have these hills and these valleys of life. And when we're in that valley, we cannot see what's over that next hill. But you know what? There is someone who can see what's over that next hill, and that's God. He knows exactly where he's taking you. And he knows exactly what he needs to build in you so that when you get to where he's taking you, you have the words that come out of your mouth, you have the characteristics, and you can actually walk the walk. When you say to someone, you know what, I've been through some really hard stuff, but thank God for some unanswered prayers. I thank God that when I prayed to him and I said, please do not let me wake up in the morning. I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. This is so hard. He said, no, you are not done, Marissa. So get over it. Because guess what? You're waking up tomorrow and you're going to keep waking up, because there's something here that I need you to do, and we're going to do it together. And he has done absolutely incredible things in my life. I can't sit here and tell you that I don't feel horrible most days. I woke up this morning and I felt terrible. It was just really rough. And that's what life is like with a chronic illness. And if you don't have a chronic illness, it won't make sense. And you'll think to yourself, man, she's sick again, or she's at the doctor's office again. Or, yeah, this is our everyday struggle. This is life with a chronic illness. But you know what? There is so much more to my life besides this. Chronic illness is just a small piece of my life. Being an author is a piece of my life. Being a daughter, being a best friend. There's so much. And I know that you have so much. So what is that? What is that purpose that God's given you? What is that story that you're able to work through, that you're going to be able to share with someone else later on down the line? How are you going to be able to change someone else's life? Because I guarantee you, there are so many things in your story and your testimony that there is someone else right now going through the exact same thing. And they need to hear from someone. Because for them, they are alone. They're in their four walls and they don't think anyone else understands. But you do. So how are you going to share that truth? How are you going to live out your purpose and share your story? Are you going to write it down in a book? Maybe you'll make a video about it. Maybe you'll meet someone for coffee. There's so many different ways. How has God gifted you? How can you use those talents? For me, it's communicating, it's speaking, it's writing. I write it in my memoir. My whole story is in my memoir, but not just my story. It's also somewhat of a self-help, because I want to teach other women and men out there that have chronic illness, how do you use the gifts you have? Because you are a life changer. You are going to change someone else's life. Mark my words. It may not be in the same way that I'm doing it, but you have your own way. God gifted you with your own way, your own purpose. So I want you to reflect on that. Here we are at the beginning of the year. We have this whole year. What's a way that you want to help change someone else's life and you want to impact someone else's life? You want to encourage them. You want to pour love into them. You want to support them. You want to let them know, you know what? I know how scary it is to swallow that pill. I know how scary it is to go and get that test. I understand not sleeping the night before because you have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow and if you're going to be okay. And maybe you're going home and you're going to be by yourself. Maybe you don't have family. Maybe you don't have friends that get it. But you know what? You have me. You have me and you have him. And that is all that you need. So tell me how you're going to share your story, how you're going to make some moves this year. You're going to share your legacy and you're going to help change someone else's life. And you're going to let them know you get it and you're here for them. I love you guys. You've been an amazing community. I can't thank you enough. I hope that you'll check out my book. It's chronically fabulous. I'll chat with you all soon. Bye.